Hey team, wanted to do another video. I've been doing videos for my friend JC Demi because I've been watching hers, and so I just did a couple of villain videos. One was villain and one was misunderstood, not villain, but still escaped convict. It's complicated. Now I wanted to do one literary criticism that isn't villain, because actually I realized that I did have a few fandoms growing up that were in the villain genre, but with characters who were the movies Chicago and Phantom of the Opera, and I liked the Phantom, who was technically the bad guy, but it was just because his musical part was so good, and then and he was the sensual character, and then the musical Chicago was, political satire, societal critique and criticisms about corruption in the legal system and in the justice system, and talking about popularity and being able to glad hand your way into fair representation, and there's a whole musical number about razzle dazzling the jury, and so it's about kind of the BS layers of committing crimes, but not the committing of the crimes, because they are all just guilty. They are all like crimes of passion. They were abused. They were cheated on. Some have more, in theory, more down to earth expectations and goals for their life, just not being cheated on or whatever. But the main characters want to be stars, and they were performers, and so that's not that's not who I wanted to be. But the musical numbers are good, the music was good, and so it's not necessarily like the standard storyline of the Pinterest mom, or like the mom wars, over cute, ideals. But it was kind of a grittier, dirtier look, and people have turned more towards influencing, and I noticed that actually at the deposition with Hillary Clinton, is someone was an influencer, and so I feel like popularity is something that people mark themselves on, and so being a star is potentially kind of where society actually is going towards, more than being an influencer. And so maybe their characters are more real than I would have anticipated. At this time I wanted to be a teacher, so I did not arguably have delusions of grandeur in that sphere per se. I liked playing, but I kind of knew what I wanted to be at that time. I'm pretty sure that the French teacher was already in place. I wanted to teach French, so but I wanted to talk about different storylines that were not about the antagonists, not about the villains, because that is not my identity. That's not my high school identity. That's not who I am now. I do a lot of DIY crafts, and so I am more of the crafting, type stereotype, arguably the trope, trying for the Pinterest over cute. I do like that stuff. I like the DIY projects and things like that. So but I do also like law. I took some coursework over this summer, because they had a legal law school for everyone at it's the great courses. It's a series of essentially class lectures on law, and they had it at my local library, and so I did watch it over the summer. And I was in a club in school that we would go over law, and so Um, so it's not in my rhetoric to be interested in law and politics now, to have come to the fore. I've been doing a lot, but as adults, we want to be in the know about governance and of what's going on with our society, and so it's good to keep tabs on that, to know what's going on. And so but I did have a fandom that I wanted to talk about a particular character, since I am now embracing a challenge that I kind of I was inspired to participate in, to create, because of my friend JC Demi, talking an hour about a nonfiction character, and she does specialize in villains, and I do not, though, come to think of it, there was a pattern of sorts, the big ones, but I also like protagonists. I liked the Doctor in Doctor Who, that series. That was another big one. That was very big when I was in late high school, college, with this man who, this character who is a Time Lord. So arguably we could call him a man. Canonically, he's a Time Lord versus a Time Lordess or a Time Lady. But he identifies as a Time Lord. Most of his manifestations are male. He is unique because he is a Time Lord, so he travels through time and space in a TARDIS. And TARDIS is a spaceship, and it's a blue police box that is bigger on the inside. I'm just gonna do all this, like, the the stereotypes, well, yeah, the basics. um, it's a police box, blue, bigger on the inside, and it's TARDIS stands for time and relative dimensions in space. And it's a spaceship. It's a time traveling machine, that can travel through time and space. And so he is from his own planet. He is an alien. He has two hearts, and that relationship is complicated because of an enemy race known as the Daleks. And there are a number of the stereotypical villains in the show with the Daleks, and you've also got Cybermen are a big one, and a few different races, but there are all sorts of different kinds of aliens that we meet. Some of them are friends, some of them are foes. The ones that I listed are kind of the big foes. And the series has spanned a lot of years, and they have a lot of different seasons. I'm going back to, gosh, my parents' era, and to modern day, but they did take a solid break there, and so it came back in my teen years, with Christopher Eccleston, and so that is unique, but he kind of rebooted it, and then he was there, and then we had a few other actors, David Tennant, and Matt Smith was actually my favorite Doctor. I know David Tennant was like the heartthrob. That was when he had the climax with his love interest of Rose, Billie Piper. It was building over a few seasons, and Rose was his companion. Sometimes he takes a friend with him on some of his travels in his spaceship, in his time machine, and so he'll go with Rose. He'll go with and she was there for a few seasons, and then there are other companions as well. Then the actress Rose Byrne, I believe, there was. But that wasn't her character. She was Donna Noble, and there was also Martha, and a number of other companions, as they go throughout the seasons. But the Doctor also changes. He actually can regenerate, and so if he gets like shot or something, he doesn't die, he regenerates. And I think canonically he had like 11 regenerations, but then they wanted to extend it, and so I think that there are more regenerations now, um, because they were getting close to the end and they're like, no, we love this character too much, so we don't want him to stop regenerating. um, but I think there was a set number at some point, but he's, hundreds of years old, and he goes around and he saves the universe. Um, because aliens are constantly kind of weaving in and out of different storylines, different timelines, and inadvertently killing off the human race, like millions of years in the future or tomorrow. And so, the Doctor does go around and he saves people. He saves races of alien species. He goes around and he tries to take care of the entire universe, and he will travel in time and in space. So they will often go into the past, and they will have period costumes, and meet royalty, and famous pop cultural characters, and like authors and of classics, and things like that. So they'll go through and meet a whole bunch of people, as well as alien race representatives. There is a cat species where humans kind of turn into cats, and that's very far into the future with the face of Bo, who is a beloved character, and I don't want to spoil it if you don't know the series. But Jack Harkness is associated with that timeline, and that is, he's a cool character. My mother absolutely adores him. And so that's something to be mindful of. We would watch as a family, and so with my sister, my mom, and I especially. So it's a fun series, but I got away from David Tennant. He was kind of it was rebooted with Christopher Eccleston, and then uh, and then and then David Tennant took over, and he was pretty big in the role. He's a lot of people's Doctor. Like, he is the canonical. He is the one that a lot of people just fell in love with, and he was in a few other films at the time also, that were big, and so he was kind of a force of nature in and of himself. And then we also had Matt Smith. I liked Matt Smith a lot, because in his seasons, I think because there were a lot of like Frenchy kind of inspired plots, and like they met Vincent van Gogh, and there were overlapping plot lines as well, and I think that got more dynamic in his seasons, whereas there were basic plots, but then they started weaving in more elements and making it more of a puzzle and more twisty, turny, plotty, waddy, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and so sorry, this is so like basic and I have a terrible memory for details, and so so people who were like hardcore fans, I would probably still be a poser comparatively, but I did really appreciate the series and the seasons, and recalling specifics is not necessarily my forte. So trivia, ooh, hit or miss. But I loved the Matt Smith series, especially with Amelia Pond and with Rory, and the storylines with Stonehenge, and it was very cool. I had a friend that went to Stonehenge, and so it was already in my rhetoric and in general, and so I had been interested in it sort of, and so there are lots of cool references, saving the planet, science fiction, time travel. I do actually like time travel quite a bit, stories, but I've not really encountered too much of that lately I did watch some of the later Doctor Who seasons, um, but it's definitely more casual now. We used um, to tune in for the holiday specials and things like that. So it was still fun, and it was definitely definitely a pop cultural presence in and around the community in shops. It was big. It was a big thing. So it was cool. But the doctor has had some love interests. He had Rose, and he actually there was drama, and he couldn't be with her. He's a Time Lord. He will live for hundreds more years, and he won't really age, and she will get old, and so it was that kind of scenario. Um, and he just couldn't be with her. Um, and luckily, there was an alternative universe scenario that happened, and so there ended up being happily ever after there that I'm not going to go into detail about. But things did end up happily ever after there. There was also a scenario where he was married, and I think that he was married to someone in previous, like in the series before Christopher Eccleston rebooted it. So I think there was a wife and maybe a son too. I think in seasons prior to the reboot, and so we didn't know about that with Rose, and then he had another interest, who is River Song, and that kind of came about in the Matt Smith era as well, the starts of that, and it did keep going as well, and that became dynamic. And of course, the character there was full of spoilers, and it was very dynamic. I know I didn't actually appreciate River Song's character right away, just because I I really liked Matt Smith, and so I was like, I don't know. Is she? I was picky. I was like, is she kind of old for him? Is she a little? I don't know. Is she pretty enough? Or he's this young, dapper gentleman, full of energy, and so I was kind of mean. I was discerning, and I wasn't sure if it was, meant to be in my head canon, but it did grow on me, of course, and of course knowing who she actually was, it still did kind of grow on me. But I wasn't 100% pro that. I did support David Tennant with Rose and as well, and so I think that was just harder too. And all of a sudden, he's got a wife, and you're like, what? And but there's a story there too, and I don't want to put out too many spoilers as well. But she didn't always look like herself for time travel-y reasons, time lordy reasons, but it's really cool who she ends up being in the grand scheme of things. But I loved Matt Smith's companions. I think not having a love interest, in the companion circle was nice. It was just a solid group of friends being there, and of course the friends, they had the love interest, and so we still had that romance, without complicating it, out of respect and deference for the Rose relationship. But it was a cute series. And then we did have Peter Capaldi, and I didn't actually, he was so angry, his character was angry, and so I didn't watch his seasons right away, and I kind of stopped with Doctor Who. I later got caught up, but that's kind of where my fandom kind of slowed down, because he was so mad, and so I didn't care for it as much. I watched it later, and I actually really did appreciate the dimensions that he brought to the character. I did end up liking him after, but it kind of slowed down. Matt Smith was my doctor, he was the one, and so then it's really hard to follow up after that anyway, because that was the one that I was like, yep. And then, so I don't know if Peter Capaldi actually ever had a chance. Definitely not right away. I had to get away from the series and uninternalize the love and the appreciation for the storylines, and then he was okay after that. And then I did watch a few of the other more modern seasons. I think I missed one, and I don't remember because my mother always gets them on DVD. But I think that slowed down. Now they are streaming, and so we watched the last so and so through the streaming platform, and so the fandom isn't as strong now, but it was one of the formative years, and so he's a dynamic character, the Doctor, and he has actually regenerated as a woman now, so that is something. And they always do the shout outs, the throwbacks to the old Doctors, and so they will make cameos, and the old companions as well show up, and so it's a great community, and it's fun to see everybody kind of come back, and it's very cool, and it's all possible, of course, because of time travel, and and so it's fun. It's very, very cool dynamic to see that. Yeah. So it's interesting because he is obviously like this superhero type character. He is almost omnipotent. He's incredibly smart, AI smart. He's got a sonic screwdriver that can kind of magic things open. They're sonic waves, so he uses waves to scan things, and it'll give him data points, and he can read it, and so it's very, very helpful. It's a helpful tool. But it's science fiction, and so it's got the moral questions of what do you do, if somebody is being discriminated against, like an alien race, and what do you do in these moral questions of this is supposed to be the formula, this is supposed to be what happens throughout history, but we are here, and we could change it. And that's another one of those things where they talk about, you're not supposed to change it, you're not supposed to change the formula, you're not supposed to change history. It could, it's like the butterfly effect, where it could make this huge difference, and everything could change, and you can't upset the balance of the human timeline, the human race, because things might go wrong, and people could die, and the world could suffer for it. And so they say don't change it, but he ends up it ends up happening. Of course it has to happen, where things will change, and he would save loved ones of people who were supposed to perish, and that happened a few times. And so he's not quite so set offset of that, but turns out that like the Mount Vesuvius at Pompeii was actually aliens. Of course it had to be, and so if you don't know, the city of Pompeii was completely covered in volcanic ash, and many perished, and it was buried under this lava, but they excavated it, and they brought it back from the non-existence, and Pompeii is over in Italy, so that is a cool history, very interesting, but it was aliens. According to Doctor Who, there was a spaceship. It was feeding off I think the volcanic heat, and so there was an ethical element there of, do you let Mount Vesuvius explode and let everyone die in that society, knowing that that you're here now, and you could change the course of history, you could help save them. And he did save a few people, so that was good, but yeah, so those ethical questions, and then you have the paradigms, and you have the catch-22s of getting stuck in like time vortexes and things like that. So you should you help, when should you help. There is an alien species who can like read minds, and the last of its kind is, that's the one thing, the doctor was the last of his kind. His planet was destroyed, and so he was the last of his kind, and so he was traveling space and time alone for hundreds of years, and so he was finding companions, he was finding these aliens, and he was helping save people because he was so alone. But then of course, wow, there is actually another Time Lord, but he's evil, and so then we have that character. I think that was the rhythm. We don't need to go into that. And then, and then, oh my gosh, there's another half Time Lord, half lady, and then so plot twists abound, and but he's a great character, always pulled into these things. The world is going to die, so there's a lot of action, there's technology. It goes into, again, governance, because he sometimes pairs up and works with like English intelligence agencies, and so they work together on a governmental level to take care of the alien baddies and to address those things. So it's a cool series. Very much appreciate it. He's a cool character. Fish sticks and custard, bow ties are cool, fez are cool. All these references, we'll drop those in the fandom box. Yeah, so he's a very dynamic character, so smart, very funny, but then his character does kind of evolve with the different renditions, the different faces that he wears, that he has, and the science can split off when they're always coming up with innovative ways that technology plays into these scenarios, and how technology can be used in like different institutions within society. So like banking, and with education, with hospitals. There was an episode where aliens had kidnapped an entire hospital and like removed it from the ground and had beamed it into the sky, and then like cars and transportation, they had taken over cars, and so there were like systems where the cars would emit gases to control the people within them. So a lot of different scenarios discussing these scientific, sci-fi what ifs, and what do you do and how do you combat things like that, and warmongers, and ethics of, if they are all alone, do you have mercy, and to what extent. And he doesn't carry weapons, he doesn't use weapons, and so that's one of the big things about his character. And then there are he doesn't believe in that. He's the doctor, he saves lives, he doesn't want to take lives, and so it's very interesting. He uses a sonic screwdriver and science and his knowledge and intelligence and his cleverness to get through all sorts of different puzzles, and with the time travel there, and the costumes and outer space, and so it's a very cool show. His character, like I said, dynamic. There is a robot dog, and so that's super cute. K9 unit. Yeah, I think I might actually wrap this video up, which I don't think that's a bad thing per se, but I think we're gonna end it there. He's a dynamic. There are specific episodes that are iconic with the angels, that they touch you and you get transported back in time. Don't blink. And gosh, like I said, I had the bias for the French ones, the Frenchy ones. Madame de Pompadour, just a stunning actress. Um, but of course, she did pass early, and that was part of the plot. And so that one ended actually pretty sad, which was unfortunate. Um, but they would use human body parts to. There was an alien race that used human body parts to fuel their own ship, and so it was grotesque. It was they were clockwork robots, and um, and so they would and go and try and salvage organs from human beings and take them so that way they could travel through space. And so just little nuances of, worst case scenarios and things like that. Um, yeah, they're an alien race that is living under the Earth's surface. They're now lizard people and incredibly intelligent, very strong females there, which is cool. They've interacted with dinosaurs, so really anything cool you would want, they can bring into the storyline, the plot, and it's cool. There's another character, Cassandra. She is like the last human, I think is what they said, and she's literally just a piece of skin, I think, with like a mouth, because her body image, oh, she was too fat, like even having arms, having legs, having any like muscle or organs whatsoever was too gauche, and she had to be on trend, and so she was literally just like a sheet of skin. So it talks about all sorts of different societal issues. There was an episode with little adipose aliens, adipose babies that were like little, like there was like weight loss as a theme, and so the adipose would like fall off of humans, and then it would run around as like live little aliens. That one was an interesting episode. I am actually learning medical terminology for a pharmacy technician course, and adipose came up, and I just had to chuckle because that's in my mind immediately with adipose. Yeah, so lots of interesting storylines. Oh gosh, the cat people, Face of Bo. There was an alien race that was trying to help save humanity, but they had copied the signature wrong, the human signature, because it was World War II, and so that's another iconic episode. Are You My Mummy? Where the alien species thought that having a gas mask was a part of the human anatomy, and so they were trying to heal these people that were like all people around this bomb site in World War II, and so the aliens were affixing gas masks on all these people, and they would all be like, "Are you my mummy? Are you my mummy? Mummy, mummy," and it was like this horror sequence because they would touch you and you would grow a gas mask on your face, and then you would do exactly the same, because the genetic signature, the what they had studied to help heal people was this little boy who had lost his mother. And then luckily they were able to reverse all the damage and things like that. But that's one of the big Jack Harkness episodes. Also, he is also a time traveler, but he's got a device, and versus the spaceship. And so that's something, different types of time travel that does come up. Otherwise, yeah, just a cool, fun character to play with, and didn't go in depth with like the fan fiction, but we still did appreciate him very much, and appreciate the series very much, and we watched it for many years. So Very dynamic, a fun, interesting way to tackle those societal questions while also bringing in the technology elements and potential dystopian um, scenarios and trying to correct what's wrong and make right what needs to be made right. And I think that that is very important, and then just especially those discussions of morality and trying to help people and figuring out where those boundaries are. Um, Remembering those questions probably isn't a bad idea in moving forward. Just in general, good discussion points, um, and fun way to bring popular cultural knowledge in, pop culture references as well. They did an episode where it was the like a game show. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And then, except the people were literally being murdered. Um, so not good. Not great. Um, Lots of different things like that. Um, Worst case scenarios. so, um, but science fiction, great characters, fun storylines, also educational with the elements of if you didn't know what Pompeii was. Of course, the alien part is questionable. I don't know if they did go to like ancient Egypt, um, but they, Shakespeare. They met Shakespeare. That was a fun episode with the Harry Potter reference, which we just talked about in a previous video. Um, um, so they were at the Globe, I'm pretty sure, for that one, and just very cool. It's very cool. It's literally building the universe and coming up with a bunch of really cool timelines. So, with that, I am going to end this video. I will talk to you later. Okay. If you do want to talk about your Doctor Who experiences, if you watched it, if you didn't, leave comments. I think that would be fun. If you want to do a video about one of your favorite protagonists, make one and tag me. I would love to watch it, and I will make comments about your character and the whatever you have to say about the character. So I'm going to stop here. I will talk to you later. Bye.